So my guest today is Tim Fitzgibbon, Chair of the School Committee. Thank you, Tim, for coming.
Thank you for having me, Mary. Certainly appreciate it.
So I figured, you were town council for how many years?
From 2011, the inception, through April of 2021.
Wow, so you were right at the beginning.
Yes.
Yeah. And how do you think it's worked after all these years?
I think there's been some good points and some bad points with the town council over time. I think one of the best things about it is it's brought very good fiscal discipline to the town and enabled us to go from about a negative $600,000 or $700,000 free cash position to where we are today, putting money away in stabilization, being able to fund post-retirement benefits in a way that we can afford to right now, et cetera, and not looking under every cushion for the next nickel to pay the bills. That was very good. I think to a large extent, it's also stifled citizen involvement, whereas a lot of people got their first start and taste for working in the town and with the town in a town meeting and would say, hey, I can do better than that guy at planning board, school committee, water and sewer commission, or whatever you want to say.
Yeah.
And they would run, and then we'd have a vote, and someone would get elected and someone wouldn't. But now the only way to be involved to get elected in the town of Bridgewater is through the council, through the school committee, or through the board of library trustees. And it doesn't foster a lot of civic engagement, and I kind of miss that.
Yeah. I like going back and forth and stuff. But you created the free cash, that thing, right? Your resolution.
Well, it was a team effort. I mean, we said, we want to ensure we're getting to a point where we're putting money away for a rainy day, and we're able to fund, outstanding liabilities that we have and put money into accounts to be able to do that. And one of the proudest moments I had on the council was when COVID came in and no one knew what was going to happen with revenues, et cetera, et cetera. And, I have to give a big shout out to the town's unions, who have always negotiated very fairly and very respectfully to the town's ideas of how much money we have available. And I said to the town manager at the time, Mr. Dutton, we call stabilization a rainy day fund. Well, it's pouring right now.
Yeah.
We're not going to lay people off. These people have, given up on raises that they probably could have gotten, probably should have deserved, because they wanted to do the right thing by the town. We're going to do right by them. And so through the whole COVID situation, the town didn't lay anybody off because of finances. And that's to me is my most proud moment of being able to create that ability to do that by having that stabilization fund available.
All right. So we're going to talk about now the committee that you're on. So it says it supports all students in the district. Now, that's a huge mandate. How many students do you have?
Right around 5,500. I haven't checked the latest number, but I always have 5,500 in my mind. And the interesting thing is we have, now we've got Raynham as well, but we have students at Bridgewater-Raynham High School from Bridgewater and Raynham, and then all of our Bridgewater schools. And at one point in time, years ago, and I think it's still the case, my parents moved here to Bridgewater in 1969. I looked and I counted the number of students who came into Bridgewater every day to be educated, and it was more than the total registered voters in 1969 in the town.
That's a good population, right?
Yeah.
So I like how it says that the superintendent and the school committee represents the education and development needs and interest of all students and place their interest above all others. So even though you work with teachers and parents, the students come first.
Absolutely. One of my favorite stories, I won't mention the gentleman's name because I don't have permission to do it,
Yeah.
but a former school committee member was questioned one time. A parent came up to them and said, I have 3 children in this district. How many do you have? And he looked her right in the face and he said, I have all of them.
That's a good answer.
And I completely respected that. I've tried to live up to that we're here to do our job for all 5,500 children. Now, that's a huge, huge responsibility and range
Yes.
of things that need to happen because we have very medically fragile students who need certain special supports and everything, and I don't begrudge them that at all. They are entitled to what's called a FAPE, free and appropriate public education, and to the extent that we can provide it, we have to and we ought to, because I've said many, many times in our school committee meetings, how we treat our most vulnerable students is how we should be judged as a district. And so we've got that on one end where we're providing nursing services, et cetera, to students who need them very, very desperately to be able to attend school. Then we've got on the other side those students who are, in need of more challenge than maybe the curriculum is giving them, that maybe they sit there, in school and they're done with their homework by the time they leave on the bus because they can do it so quickly and they're not
Yeah.
being challenged. So we need to address all their needs in an appropriate manner, and that's very, very difficult. But we try to live out that mission for excellence in education for all each and every day.
So those kids who are, say, very smart, can you test them? And then if they score above a certain amount, they can get extra, help to motivate them to go further?
That's more of an administrative question. I can
Okay.
certainly follow up with the superintendent on that one. I think all the I'll always go back to this. The only person who knows their child the best is the parent.
Right.
And so I believe that as a school district, as teachers, administrators, school committee members, et cetera, we need to listen to parents who understand their children better than anyone. So if someone says my child needs this, we probably ought to believe them because they're with them most of the day.
That's
They're
true.
only at school. Think about it, Mary. They're only at school 5.5 hours a day. By law, they have to be there, and some stay after for extracurriculars and so on. But that's only 180 days out of 365 in the year. They're at home the other 24 hours, the other 180 days, and they're at home 18, 19 hours.
Yeah.
So really it's the parents who see them the most and who understand them the best and can advocate for their children the best. And that's important to listen to the parents and what they say. To the extent we can do it, we need to. We do have to follow all the laws and regulations.
Yeah.
And it's definitely, those laws and regulations are geared toward the most vulnerable, as they should be, and perhaps that leaves less opportunity equals money, to be able to offer alternatives to students at the other end of the spectrum.
See, I agree with you because when my son was in second grade, and we were in Connecticut at the time, and the teacher was telling me, well, he's a troublemaker and he's this and that. And I knew he wasn't, but I figured he was bored. But they were like, nah. So I did actually have asked and required for him to be tested, the IQ thing. And he did have an IQ. So it changed it from him being a troublemaker from him, okay, we have to challenge him more. And they did get some money to come in to help,
Yeah.
which was, I always tell him he got his brains from his mom. So. That's why I tell the
and
story.
no doubt his looks as well.
Oh, thank you. So it also says, I mean, I got to say, you guys have done a really good job saying what your responsibility is. I think even more so to the detriment of saying what, some of the committees on the town council. I think we should take some of this. But anyways, the school committee says to oversee and vote on budget, create policies, hire and evaluate the superintendent, long-term planning, visions for the districts. So what kind of policies do you guys create?
We create every policy. We have a policy manual about that thick. Everything from how do we run our meetings, how do we interact with the superintendent, just every aspect of operations.
So you almost run like a town council.
Oh, yes, absolutely. It's basically the same idea. In fact, it's very similar in a certain way in that the town council is responsible for hiring and firing the town manager, and then the town manager runs everything below the town manager level.
Now, when you hired your superintendent, do you hire it the same way as the town council hires it, like we get an outside company?
It all depends. Different school committees choose different ways to do things. We recently hired Mr. Powers as our superintendent. He had been the assistant superintendent. He had filled in as an acting superintendent. A majority of the school committee was happy with his performance as the acting superintendent and didn't see any reason not to promote him to be the superintendent. Other times, there's certainly been a search committee, hire an outside firm, et cetera. And, there's different ways of going about it.
So you have a choice.
Yeah, and every school committee is going to make the choice, when they're faced with it, that they think is the most appropriate for the district.
So you also do like we do. You evaluate the superintendent.
Yes.
You do that every year?
Yeah. In fact, the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, DESE, has essentially a form of here's how you evaluate the superintendent. And, you can't do it on every item. Pick a couple and make sure you set goals that are appropriate and so on and so forth. And I just want to give a shout out to Cleone Mainville. Ms. Mainville is the chair of our long-range planning committee. And that committee is tasked with creating the superintendent's goals each year, evaluating. Well, this whole school committee evaluates the superintendent, but giving the format for evaluating the superintendent. In fact, probably at the May meeting, the superintendent will be reporting on what he thinks he's done relative to his goals.
Yeah.
For the year, and then the school committee will give him his evaluation at our June meeting, and we do that each and every year. Unlike the town council, which sometimes misses a year or two. I know. I did.
I watched the older ones. I think we need to get more focused, more focused. But how many contracts? I mean, how many years is his contract for? Like we only do 3.
Yeah, we're I believe in a 3-year contract, and I believe the salary increase is only like 2.5% a year or something like that.
Yeah,
we tried to be very fiscally responsible with it, and
it's a tough job.
It was it's a very difficult job. Just like town manager, you're out at all hours. You go into meetings, you're answering phone calls, you're answering emails.
Yeah.
You got 7 different counselors mad at you about one thing or another, and and trying to juggle it all. Oh, and have a personal life. Yeah, that's kind of tough.
It is tough. I definitely agree with you. So I'm bringing this up just because some residents bring this up and maybe they don't know it. Because the school committee's role does not resolve issues the parents voice to your committee, but you do so you tell them to follow the chain of command, but you support the residents by addressing the concerns directly to the administrative. Because I know you have done coffee or meet with you, so they think that like when they meet sometimes with the town council, we can give them the answer. But you guys, you listen to the issues and then you bring it back and get an answer for them. So when you get that answer, do you talk about it at your next meeting or do you personally reach out to each person?
Generally, if it's a school related issue, I try very hard. I can't speak for other school committee members, but if people reach out to me, I try very hard to connect them with the right person
Yeah.
to address their issue. I make sure the superintendent is aware that there's an issue and, that this has been brought to my attention, and whether or not that means the superintendent puts a little extra focus on it, I'm not going to say. That's up to him to tell you.
Yeah.
But I'd like to think that, the issue gets addressed in an appropriate manner. I'm thinking of one in particular where it was an ongoing situation with a family and a child, and it wasn't working out to the satisfaction of the family and what they thought was in the best interest of the child. And I got looped in, and, it ended up, with a kind of good answer. I mean, the family wasn't super happy that it took 9 months or a year to get to the right answer, but they were happy with the answer. So, it's just important to raise those issues, but understand, just like yourself, you can't wave a magic wand to fix a pothole.
Yeah.
I
know.
And so, it's very important to understand that I can raise the issues. I can point you in the right direction. That's what you hired me for. And then, it's up to you to do the follow-up. You can keep me in the loop as much or as little as you want.
Yeah. See, I wanted to bring that up because I think people have a misunderstanding. Because you're on a committee or a council, you still have a chain of command also.
Correct.
And we're limited. Yeah. So I like people to know that. We're doing the best we can, but we are also limited. Like you are.
Correct.
So your meetings, so the total time of your meeting for comments is 12 minutes. How did you come to that?
I think that's pretty common throughout the state. I've seen it in other. I watch. I'm a government geek. I watch a lot of YouTube and government channels just to see what's going on around the state. I think it's pretty common. That was a policy before I got on in 2021. We haven't changed it. We haven't looked at it.
But I do see where you have with the residents or parents can send in a question.
Oh yeah,
that you'll address.
Yeah, we and as chair, I've tried to be a little bit flexible with the 3 minutes and the 12 minutes, where I know there's an issue that's in front of us that's, a lot of people want to be heard from. I try to ask everyone to be respectful and not repeat somebody else. I'll tell you.
I've watched it. You handle it well.
I'll tell you a funny story off air about the Christmas meeting about marijuana back in the day.
Everybody wanted one in their stocking. All right. So the school committee and the superintendent agrees to utilize your subcommittees. So do you? Because that's one of the things I think our residents are not happy with, that our committees aren't utilized as much. So it says they have to focus on a specific topic. Your subcommittees even say they present a presentation, which I thought was pretty cool.
Yeah, we have 8 members on our school committee. They're all volunteers, just like the town council is all volunteers. And you guys show up to the council meetings, you show up to meet with residents, you show up to committee meetings, And that's a lot of time.
Yeah.
That's a lot of time. And what we try to do is understand what people do best, what they want to do, and we try to assign school committee members to those committees that they would be most effective at.
And how many committees does an average one have? Like I have 2.
Yeah,
And an ad hoc wing with the manager. So that was like 3.
I'm on 3 different committees. I'm on the budget, the negotiations. They kind of go hand in hand for the most part. And on the long-range planning. And then other members, it depends. I mean, if we have a new member, we're not going to throw that new member right into budget.
Yeah.
They don't necessarily know everything or have absorbed everything that they need to have to be able to be an effective member.
Yeah.
But one of the things we do try to do as a school committee is give deference to the committee's work, that we understand they're the ones who've put in the time, and if they're coming with a recommendation, unless it's completely horrible, then they've done the work. We trust each other as committee members, and we should support that recommendation when it comes forward, because that's what they do. And by the way, just to give a shout out again to a town manager or a superintendent, they're at all those meetings.
I know. Yeah.
So, I have 3. The superintendent has 5 or 6 he has to
I
go
know.
to.
I see them there. I mean, I've watched them before I became a town council, and they do a lot of work. And even now, I'll watch all the committees and subcommittees.
Yeah.
But it does. You don't realize until like now I had 3 because I was with hiring the town manager. It's a lot.
Right.
I mean, just like this budget. I mean, there's just so much you can dig into it, and then you got to go, okay, now the town has to decide. You know what I mean? I don't think some of them had said that they didn't think we dug into the budget enough, but I'm not going to pull apart employees. You know what I mean? To me, it's take off the roads, and you know what I mean?
Right.
I don't know. But yeah, it's difficult. So who sets the agenda for your meetings, your school meetings?
Do you want the legal answer? Or do you want the real answer?
So I'd say you.
The chair sets the agenda, just like in any other committee. The chair sets the agenda, but we would be lost without Judy McDougall, our executive secretary.
Yeah, I met her. Yeah.
And I mean, she is the force behind everything that gets done. She keeps things on track. She's emailing me all the time. Hey, do you want to do this? Hey, did you think about that? Does this have to go on the agenda? And I have to give her a shout out, because
That's like Debbie Ward for us.
Yeah, exactly.
Keep your
or Ann Holmberg back in the day when Ann was there for us.
Yeah. So I like how it says that you have to attend meetings well prepared and read the packet. So when do you get your packet? Like, what are you gonna when you know exactly?
Generally, it's going to be the Friday before the Wednesday meeting.
So pretty much along with us.
Yeah, and it may change a little bit. So if there's a Monday budget committee meeting before the Wednesday meeting, then Rachel King, our budget chair, would update that with what was done at the budget committee and so on. But the idea is we're providing you with all the information. Don't ask a question that's already been in the package you got. You should understand it. You can ask about the package, like, okay, you told me this in the package, but I don't understand why you said that. But don't. We try, and I'm very, as a chair of a committee, I very much value people's time, and I don't want to waste it. And so, to not come prepared to a meeting is to me like a mortal sin. Be ready to go, be ready to talk about the issues will be in front of you, and don't waste time going back over things that
See that?
you've been given.
Right there, that takes a lot of time. I spent a lot of time over my weekend
Yeah.
learning stuff
Yep.
and knowing the questions and to ask.
Yeah.
And then sometimes you just have to ask that you don't get. But like you guys say that you're very proactive with communications, that the members, if they have questions or concerns, they can contact the chair or the superintendent before the meeting.
Yeah, and we that's taken advantage of quite a lot by various members.
Yeah.
Now, again, I will just put this in perspective, right? You've got 8 members on the school committee. You've got 9 town councilors, right?
Yeah.
And so, if 8 members of the school committee send 2 questions to the superintendent each over the weekend about
Yeah.
the package, and each takes 10 minutes. Well, that's 20 minutes per school committee member. That's 160 minutes total. That's almost 3 hours of a day of work for the superintendent just to get back
Yeah.
to the members of the board, never mind doing his real day job of making sure the district is running appropriately. And the same thing happens with the town manager,
It
too.
is. It's a lot of work. I
Yeah.
try not to bother the town manager, but
Sometimes you have to.
Yep. So it says that you have a regular professional development meetings offered by the committee.
Yep.
So you actually have time where you start. What do you do?
We generally will invite a member of the Mass Association of School Committees in to give a presentation on a particular issue, or have an outside consultant whom we're already paying to do work in the district, bring
Yeah.
us up to speed.
Well, your committee must have an expense.
Yeah,
Yeah,
a
that you can
a
use.
small one.
Yeah, but that you can use at your
Yeah.
discretion.
And so, we were able to do a lot of learning last year about Chapter 70, how that works, how
Yeah.
the formula works, et cetera. And, it became very clear to me that the state is not going to come to the rescue very soon, although we do thank the governor for what she did in her budget as far as funding goes this year.
Yeah, it's a little tough. So it says the superintendent school committee recognized the importance of working alongside with town officials to improve our schools, and you actively see ways to enlist their support and efforts. And in our administration code, it says the town council can meet with budget and education. I would certainly like us to meet, just not at budget. You know what I mean? Along the way, how can we help? Knowing what your challenges are and stuff like. Get more of a relationship, because you guys are a huge part of our budget,
Right.
and you have to come to us. So I would like to see us meet.
Oh, absolutely. And I think when I was elected the chairperson last spring, I think I came to the town council and I went to the Raynham Board of Selectmen. I said, I'm at your disposal. You call me, let me know if you want to come in for a meeting, or if you need to have this full school committee there. Our job's to work together. We're all here to make our towns and our district collectively better.
Yeah.
And and that's what I value about each and every one on the council and each and every one on the selectmen in Raynham, and obviously the school committee, that we're all kind of trying to row in the same direction.
No, I took advantage. You asked anybody need extra help with the budget, and I did.
Yeah.
And I appreciate
And
that.
Mr. Lindy came as well, I remember.
Yes, he did. He got at the library with us. The one thing that I would, though, like to talk about the budget. I have difficulty, and it's because of who I am. Like, the town manager lays it out.
Yep.
Here's the school, like, say, the town clerk. This is how much the town clerk gets, and this and expense. The list is difficult. And I've asked. I asked in February that I met with you, and I also asked for the list of what the capital was last year. I didn't receive that, but I don't really have a relationship with the school right now. I would just like to see if we could work on the budget so it's more like what the town manager presents. Because residents ask me a lot of questions, and I can't even tell them what a first grade teacher is making. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And, I think it would be certainly a good idea to sit down, uh, not just in one-on-one conversations, but as you said, in a full meeting
Yeah.
with everybody outside of the furor of the budget season, so
Oh,
to
yeah.
speak, and say, how can we make your job easier as a town council, and vice versa? How can the town council make our job easier as a school committee, so that we're on the same page, we understand each other, we know where we're coming from, and then everybody's working from the same playbook.
Yeah.
If I'm over here using the Seattle Seahawks playbook, and we're over here using the New York Giants playbook, it's not going to work.
Yeah. No, I would love to see that. I would love to work closer with the school system in the committee. I think it's important.
Yeah.
And I think the residents, it would make a big difference in the residents. Because, we each have questions from our residents.
Right.
And, it's difficult.
Yeah, and the most important thing to me, I call it radical honesty, openness, and transparency.
Yeah.
I will tell you the truth as far as I know it. I'm not going to shade it. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I'm going to say this is what it is. And if I don't know, I'll say, you know what? I don't know. I'll find out.
I think that's the best way to do it.
Yeah.
Be honest. Because when some of the residents come to me, I'm not sure. And then even some stuff when I study and I go to a town council meeting, I have to ask more questions.
Right.
Because you can't find everything on Google and stuff like that. Now, I know this, who hires the food? And I'm kind of a health nut.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of pay attention. One of the parents actually brought one of the desserts, or I think it was I don't know, like a muffin or something, and the ingredients on it. And I was thinking, especially with John K. Jr. is going to start looking at it, I was thinking that maybe we could start looking at our food and making them a little bit healthier.
Yeah.
But I don't know if you guys have anything to do with who you hire.
That we would vote as part of the budget to fund the contract.
Yeah.
The superintendent and the business manager would execute a contract with a vendor. We've outsourced that for several years now. I believe it's Chartwell's at the moment. One of the challenges we face and I think this is all municipalities, all school districts, et cetera, is getting folks to bid on these contracts. So if Chartwell's is the only responsible and responsive bidder, you kind of have to go with them. If Lucini is the only responsible and responsive bidder on transportation, you have to go with them. Same thing with electric, same thing with heat. You'd love to have 4, 5, 6 options, but because of the way the economy is right now,
Yeah.
and a lot of people not wanting to stretch themselves too thin and venture out into new territories, they don't necessarily want to bid. But that all said, I think we could certainly encourage the superintendent, Mr. Powers, if you're listening, I'm encouraging you, to make sure that we're having the most healthy food choices available to our students.
Yeah, because if you look at this is only on a muffin.
Mm-hmm.
It's unbelievable. it's happening everywhere, but
Right.
I kind of look at the kids. I have a heart for them, like probably you do. When did we stop cooking, actually, the meals, rather than having them processed? You know what I mean? Because they used to cook. I don't know how long ago that was. Make the potatoes, cook the burgers. Too far back.
I actually, as a youngster working my way through college, worked vacations and summers at the old Williams School before it was knocked down. The old part was knocked down, which used to be the old high school, and now I'm losing people. But we used to go in and we used to grab, all the frozen USDA patties out of the freezer, bring them over to the kitchen, every morning to thaw out, and they would cook those patties,
Yeah.
from the USDA. Same thing with chicken and, et cetera, et cetera. So, there was a lot of food in those freezers that, came right from the federal government that was put right into the, the grills, the ovens, et cetera, and were able to be cooked. Yeah.
Yeah. It's too bad. We got to get them healthy again. Well, Bill, it's been 40 minutes. I appreciate it.
My name's Tim.
I mean, Tim. Sorry. It was Bill last week.
Yeah,
That's why.
no,
talked about-
he looks a lot like me.
No, he actually complimented you, saying that you were the one that started that free cash, and that's how I knew about it. Yeah,
Yeah.
but yeah,
No, Bill's a good guy.
he
I love
speaks
being
well
his,
of you.
I love being his colleague.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he does.
he was definitely.
You guys were on the council at
good
the same
ally.
time.
Yeah. He stayed a little longer than me. The interesting thing is, I get elected the same. We started serving when the council began, but when my term expired in 21, if I'd run again, I would have been beyond the 12-year term limit.
Okay.
So I couldn't run again. And then Bill did whatever Bill did, and came back on the council, et cetera. So, and that's what the voters decide. And let me just leave you with that thought, Mary, if I could. Is
Sure.
I trust the voters of Bridgewater and Raynham way more than I trust 8 school committee members, 9 town councilors, and 3 selectmen from Raynham. The voters of Bridgewater and Raynham make the right decisions for themselves.
Yeah.
And I respect it, and I believe in it, and that's like a fundamental core belief of myself is we should always trust the voters.
I think that's where it's headed.
Yeah.
But thank you very much. I appreciate you taking time out and talking.
I appreciate you inviting me here.
I
Thank you so
learned
much.
I learned a lot, and you guys have a huge mandate on you. It was more than I thought it was.
Well, everyone tries to work hard.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you.
All right. Take care. Thank you.